It is believed that the life force of different civilizations located in different places has their different patterns of influence. If we think about the European civilization, the life force had been materialistic. On the other hand, if we think and talk about Asian civilizations, religion, culture, and society has played a greater role. Now, we can't say that in Europe, religion has not played an important role because Christian cultural links have played a very important role. When we talk and think about European Union, the Christian common religious and cultural links have cemented a sense of unity amongst the European nations. Turkey had been a newcomer and the latecomer in the European Union, and the only exception out. Rather, this exception proves the rule more clearly. In the same way, in India, amongst the diversities, our nationalism has an underlying unity with the civilization, culture, society, and the heritage which comes down to us from time immemorial. Tagore was aware with this civilization link all throughout the country. He was the author of our national anthem. And the critics or the left liberal ecosystem paints him as an internationalist and paints him in a manner that he is against nationalism. Please read that the articles which he wrote about internationalism and against the narrow nationalism of Europe during the Second World War, all those articles were during the Second World War, before the Second World War, which pained him. Indian nationalism can never be equated with this narrow nationalism of the fascists of Europe because Indian nationalism has a deep and close spiritual tilt. Tagore understood it. So, this very nature of clubbing or stating that nationalism will lead to fascism is a sweeping statement and a statement which is being given more for political reasons than academic endeavors. So, what we find is that we have to understand and assimilate the spiritual nationalism of Tagore. Now, in our nation, it is only when the society is crippled that true calamity will strike. It is the reason why, for so long, we have not fought for our national independence. That is, our independence was political fight against the Britishers. At the same time, we should be involved, Tagore thought, and many of our great thinkers thought, to bring India out of the social discriminations which was prevalent during his period. Now, when we say this social discrimination, society is divided in higher and lower social units all over the world. In Britain, also, you have the House of Lords and House of Commons. The knights have a higher social status. The members of the royal family has a higher social status. If we go and read the Republic written by Plato, we will find that the society was stratified into the philosophers, auxiliaries, and laborers. So during that period, society everywhere around the world was stratified into higher and lower social units. The tragedy is that this division also, what we say caste division, was based on endogamous kinship based groupings. Now, in our understanding, in our scriptures, Tagore has also referred that this division was more as a division of labor. Chatur Varna Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhajanam. So, we should understand that this caste division in India was division of labor theoretically, not a kinship based grouping, which it degenerated to. So, our freedom movement had two perspectives. One, the political perspective to make India politically free from the British clutches, and second, a social structure where each individual will be given the opportunity and the status he deserves as a human being in a modern society. So, in this perspective, when we understand the Swadeshi Samaj has been written by Tagore, now how he thought Bharat, we had a traditional society. Now, the Europeans thought that it is an union of nations, union of states rather, and they considered it as a multilingual, multiracial, multicultural national identities which culminated under an union due to administrative unification. This very understanding was not there amongst the Indian nationalists in general and also in Tagore. India has a civilizational connection all around, and Indians are connected historically. As different streams come and intermingle in Ganga or Ganges, we don't say composite Ganga or composite Ganges, we say Mother Ganga or Mother Ganges. In the same way, different streams came, but they intermingled. So we don't say it composite India, we say it Mother India. And in this very nature of concept where we consider the nation as mother, then different streams come in, they intermingle, they share their understandings and experiences, and the entire subcontinent has a civilizational link. And people all over the subcontinent came from one place to other and settled in due course. Like my name suggests those who are listening to this deliberation that I am a Bengali. 1200 years ago, when I take the family chart of mine, it clearly states that we came from Kanauj. We are Kanauji castes who gradually settled in Bengal 1200 years before. And this is true to Tagore also, because the original title of Tagore was Bandopadhyay. Thakur was a later development which during the British period became Tagore. Saeed Mustafa Ali clearly writes that the original surname of Tagore was Bandopadhyay, or if we say Banerjee, because they were people of Shandilya Gotra. Now, during the period 1200 years before, during the time of Adi Sura, the Prachya Vidya Maharnav, in English, if you say the legendary Indologist, Nagendranath Boshu writes that 5 Brahmin families came from Kanauj. The family of Bhattanara and Shandilya, who came from Kanauj, settled in the Bando village of Bengal, became an Upadhyay there, and Bandopadhyay, they are of Shandilya Gotra. In the same way, Sriharsha Bharadwaj, who came and settled in the Mukhuti village of Bengal and became Mukhopadhyay, the Mukherjees, they are of Bharadwaj Gotra. Vedagarva Shavarna, I find here a lady, Devadatta Ganguly, who has introduced me. This Ganguly is Gangopadhyay. Vedagarva Savarna, this gentleman came and settled in the Gangur village and became an Upadhyay there, Gangopadhyay, and you ask your friend Devdatta, she is of Shavarna Gotra, her ancestors are of Shavarna Gotra. So in this way, Bandopadhyay, Mukhopadhyay, Chattopadhyay, Gangopadhyay, Ghoshal, these 5 Radi Brahmin families came from Kanauj 1200 years ago. Tagore was one of them. Tagore's ancestors were one of them. And with these 5 Kanauji Brahmin families came 5 Kanauji caste families. Shaukalin, Ghosh, Gautam, Bose, Vishwamitra, Mitra, Kashyap, Guha and Dattas, to keep and maintain the office of the Brahmins. Because castes were the caste of writers and Brahmins used to they were preachers, so they just used to say, they don't used to write. Srutidhar. That's why Ved came down to us as Smriti. So in this way, I just told the history to make you understand that how India is connected. In the same way, Gaudiya Brahmins came out of Bengal and went to different parts of India. The very renowned Chief Minister of Goa, Manohar Ji, was a Gaudiya Brahmin. Ancestors came from Bengal, went there. And that's why the Gaudiya Brahmins eat fish. And you will find all throughout India there is a presence of Gaudiya Brahmins. So in this way, people traveled in this subcontinent. And that's why there is a sense, as Sri Aurobindo says, that India, the very concept of Bharat is a Bharat Bhav. It is not just a nation, a geographical entity. And here, Aurobindo and Ravindra both agrees with each other that India is not just a geographical entity. When he writes Jana Gana Mana, he says Punjab, Sindhu, Gujarat, Maratha, Dravida, Utkala, Banga. He is just drawing the geography of India. At that time, Punjab and Sindh was at that time in India, and the borders, just borders. Rajasthan became the border when there is a partition. Otherwise, Punjab, Sindh were borders. So he was speaking about the borders. Gujarat, Maratha in border. Dravid, the entire south. Utkala is in border and Banga is also in border. And then he speaks about the geographical features. Jamuna, Ganga, Himachal. So this is the geographic. But then he comes in the later paragraphs. He speaks about the soul of India. You read the entire song of Janagana, you will find after he ends what happened during our independence, and after independence, when we took national song and national anthem, both we took just the first paragraph. They were just geographical. Vande Mataram, maybe the first paragraph is just geographical. Sujalang, Sufalang, these are all geographical. But when you go deep, the soul, Tanghi Durga Dasha Praharana Dharini, Tanghi Prana Sharire. In the same way, if you go deeper to Janagana, Taba Chirasharathi, this Chirasharathi, who is this Chirasharathi? Who is that Ratha Chakra? Now, when we touch the soul of India, then we understand where lies the soul of India. And Rabindranath highly spoke about Ramayana and Mahabharata. The role Ramayana and Mahabharata played in bringing this country into one fold. Marjada Purushottam Bhagavan Sri Ramchandra came from north to the south, Ajodhya to Lanka. Leela Purushottam Bhagavan Sri Krishna went from east to the west, Vrindavan to Dwarka. So this entire geographical unity has a civilizational link and a soul. And then you discover the soul. Then you understand the spirit of Janagana Mana. Rabindranath wrote a lot of songs. And there has been a lot of songs on Swadeshi Parjaya. Not only Janagana, there are a lot of songs of Swadeshi Parjaya. Rabindranath, the family of Rabindranath supported Pratavaditya Utsav. Pratavaditya, the king Pratavaditya of Bengal, who fought the Mughals. Now there was differences of opinion within the Tagore family itself. Now there was Hindu Mela in Bengal started by Nabagopal Mitra and Rajnarayan Boshu, the maternal grandfather of Maharshi Aravinda. Rajnarayan Boshu. There also the Tagore family was deeply involved in this Hindu Mela. So he was an internationalist, there was no disagreeing the fact. He was a liberal, there is no disagreeing the fact. He was also a nationalist, that too one can't disagree. Now the problem arose when there was an effort to politicize and create narratives out of the writings of Rabindranath. And this has happened for the last 50 years, particularly in West Bengal, from 1970 onwards. Many of his articles are promoted, some of his articles are suppressed. Many of his titles were changed to make it look like more secular and universal. So this has been done by the leftist researchers. But I will request the scholars to read the real writings, the original writings of Rabindranath. Not the secondary sources, what others wrote or others told about Rabindranath. Then I think justice will be done to Rabindranath's concept of nationalism. If you go and read his Bharata Varsha, if you go and read his Atma Parichay, now whether a Brahmo is a Brahmo or a Hindu, Rabindranath clearly says that a Brahmo is a Hindu. Rabindranath never disagrees or disowns his Brahminical roots. He never has done so. There had been Upanayana, that is the sacred thread ceremony, in his house. There was a sacred thread ceremony as far as Rabindranath himself was concerned, and there was a sacred thread ceremony Rabindranath gave to all his sons. He never disowned his past. Never ever. So he tried to build a bridge between nationalism and internationalism, where he tried to elevate himself or try to draw a balance between his love for Mother India and love for Ma Vasundhara. So I will also request the listeners to read his article, Swadeshi Samaj. Now, the question of the internal stagnation which took place in our social structure pained Rabindranath, that he number of times pointed out. That the caste rigidity in our society, he spoke against it, and he thought it detrimental because it's creating a block in the path of rising Indian consciousness. That Vivekananda also told. Brahman Bharatvashi, Chandal Bharatvashi, Amar Rakht Amar Bhai. The Brahmin Indian and the Periyar Indian is my blood brothers. So that at that time, this balance, creating a balance between Hindu identity and coming out of caste rigidity was something which all the great leaders did. Whether it is Tagore or Aurobindo, Tilak or Gandhi, whosoever, they all tried to unite the Hindu society irrespective of its caste divisions. And Tagore's had nationalism, had this liberal trend, no doubt. At the same time, what he thought that a social leadership should come out, a social leadership which will unite the society. How it will unite the society? It will unite the society on the principles of dharma and samaj, that is religion, society, in these two criterions. He says in European society or in the European structure, at the heart there was politics and economics. But he says in Indian structure, at the heart there was culture and society. Now, this very sense that what we tried to disown and tried to adapt the European structure upon us is what we deviated from our legendary ancestors and their understanding. Now, Rabindranath also was highly respectful towards Sanskrit language. Vivekananda also was respectful towards the Sanskrit language. Maharshi Aurobindo was also. Now, if you don't know Sanskrit, you are delinked from your great, grand, golden ancestral past. The tragedy lies in the fact that why we understood Rabindranath in the European pattern, because the scholars in the post 70s were uninformed about Sanskrit because we dumped Sanskrit as a language of priesthood. But Sanskrit was never only the language of priesthood, it was the lifeline of our civilization. The entire ancient Indian civilization, the cultural roots, the primary source is written in Sanskrit. If we are uninformed, we are practically, the entire primary source is out of our reach. And that has happened in the post 70s. That our analysis of Rabindranath's nationalism has been mostly based on secondary sources because what he incorporated is from the Upanishads. The most favorite Upanishad of Rabindranath was Isha Upanishad, as Vivekananda's inspiration was Katha Upanishad. That's why I told Rabindranath's nationalism is spiritual nationalism. It was influenced by the Upanishads, the Advaita Vedanta, in case of Vivekananda. And it is the Rig Veda, which the Brahmas used to mostly respect. Nirakara sadhana. So this very nature, when we talk about Tagore's nationalism, we should understand the underlying spirit of Isha Upanishad. Teno takteno bhunjita ma griha karsya shantyanam. That will only make you eligible for service to the nation because that inspires tyaga, that is renunciation, and that inspires service. Because in the Renaissance period, the entire religio-cultural movement of this part of India was governed by the path of Adi Sankara, that is, the ideas of Adi Sankara, Sankarer Mat in Bengali, and Gauranger path, that is the path shown by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu influenced Rabindranath like anything. He was influenced by the Vaishnava cult. That's very clear from his songs also in the Puja Parjaya. So when we try to understand Tagore's nationalism, I've been given 40 minutes time. So 9:42, I will conclude because there is 10 to 15 minutes interactive session. So I will complete my deliberation with this note that if we try to understand Tagore's nationalism, we will have to talk on first Isha Upanishad, which is the source of his inspiration. Then we will have to talk on our societal modernization. That is how to break up and come out of the caste divisions. Then we have to talk about how Indian civilizational links comes down to us from time immemorial. We have to talk about the Ramayana and Mahabharata. And ultimately, when we come down with the experience of the Second World War, then we have to be cautious that nationalism should culminate into spiritual nationalism. It should not degenerate itself to fascism. It should elevate itself to the state of spiritual nationalism. And how to elevate itself to the state of spiritual nationalism that's greatly stated in Janani Janmabhumischa Swargadapi Garyashi, as Rama told Lakshmana, to the state of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, as we have been taught in our scriptures. So Rabindranath's nationalism is not in conflict with internationalism. At the same time, to understand internationalism, you should not forget the nation. And to understand nationalism, you should not disown the world. There should be a synthesis between these two. And this has been the Indian understanding from the days of yore. They have respected Janani Janmabhumischa Sargadapi Garyashi. At the same time, they have accepted Boshudhaiva Kutumbakam. Last line is Sri Vande Mataram, the song which has been given music by Rabindranath. Rabindranath gave sur to Vande Mataram. Rishi Bankim Chandra wrote Vande Mataram, but it came to us in a song form. The sura, the rhythm, was given by Rabindranath. And what at the last it says, Shyamalang, Swaralang, Shushmitang, Bhushitang. And it concludes what? Dharaning, Bharaning, Mataram. This Dharaning is not just nation. This is a world. So there is an unity between Bande Mataram and the love for the world. So in this way, we understand Tagore's nationalism as something where we should be more spiritually inclined and we should attach ourselves to the service of the nation without any expectation. Now, whosoever gets attached to the service of the nation gets attached with an expectation. Now, this self-abnegation is needed. And that's Upanishad, which teaches you to serve without expectation. That's Karma Yoga. So, with these words, I'm thankful to Jishnuda, because it's because of Jishnuda I came in touch with you, Professor Jishnu Basu. I'm also thankful to the young friends who have organized this webinar. And I apologize because I don't have a device at my home so that I can make it convenient where audio, visual both becomes possible. So I never had a written script in front of me. I gave the lecture spontaneously. And I think I've been able to touch the main points. There has been details, and details would have been such that you can refer lines of Rabindranath. I have not referred lines of Rabindranath in Bengali because that will make the speech longer and we don't have such long time. But Tagore's complete, and I will request each and all of you to go through the complete works of Rabindranath Tagore to understand his nationalism better. With these words, thanks to each and all of you. God bless you.